everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric, and I'll be your host for this evening, where we will be reviewing M. Night Shyamalan's latest called Knock at the Cabin. Joining me first up tonight, special guest returning back to the show. Please welcome Matilda.
Hi.
Next up on the show from Indiana, please welcome Casey.
Hello.
And last up from Manhattan, New York City. We will learn tonight if over the 15-year course of this show, John has learned how to say M. Night Shyamalan's name correctly. Please welcome John Schnarch to the show.
Shyamalan.
Oh, okay.
I was listening to you say it,
Right,
and that's how I was reminding myself.
I ruined
how to say
it. I ruined. But
Coming in strong.
we know your guts like Shyamalan.
I really want to say. I want to say it that way so bad. Shyamalan.
John,
Shyamalan Ding Dong. That's how I'm going to remember it.
John, 50% of the people on the show tonight are drinking hot, delicious tea and sitting under blankets. Who do you think?
I am drinking a delicious tea.
Oh,
right
are
now
you
too.
also?
Yeah, 75. Let's do it.
I
Mine's
drinking
I have a
tea.
ginger tea.
Oh, I have a heated blanket on right now. How about you, Matilda?
I also have a heated blanket on.
Yes,
It's freezing
that's
here.
right.
I just want to point out I'm the only one with a full head of gray hair, and I'm not drinking tea or using a heated blanket.
That's true. That's true. My beard is going pretty gray, as you can see on the live stream tonight if you're a Patreon. My children like to point this out to me on a daily basis.
Oh, yeah.
John, we've really chronicled the career of M. Night Shyamalan over the course of our show since 2007. We weren't around for the rise, but we were definitely we were around for the fall, and then the rise back up again, and then the car started fishtailing, and then these days it's like you're never really sure what you're gonna get. We've been around for a lot of it, that is to say.
No, that's true. I don't, Casey. I think you might. Maybe Matilda's watched. I know Eric hasn't. The Servant show. That's now. It's in its fourth season, I think.
Yeah.
They have announced it's the final season though. I'm kind of curious. Like the people seem to like it.
It's pretty good, but it's important to point out we're in the fourth season, and I still don't know what the hell's going on.
Oh, see,
So
that's a long time.
This is a show. This is a show he's done. I'm not familiar.
Yeah, he's fully. He's
Apple
like
TV.
the full guy behind it. Yeah, Apple TV.
Interesting. What's the elevator
And
pitch?
Casey, how would you say this? There's a couple in Brooklyn?
Yes, there's a couple in Brooklyn
Lost
who the wife is a prominent local news celebrity, and the husband is a famous chef. And then they have their brother, who is Ron Weasley, who is the wife's brother.
Okay. So Weasley, they're like thick as thieves, these two, Shyamalan and Weasley, because he's in this movie too.
Yes,
Rupert
Ron
Grint.
Weasley. Yeah, Rupert Grint and M. Night are pretty tight these days. But no, in Servant, there was a mishap when the wife had her baby originally, and the baby had passed away. This isn't too spoilery. This is like the plot of the show.
You already lost
me.
Is this a drama? Is it a horror thing?
Yes.
Okay,
Both.
That's cool. I don't need to know anymore. That's fine.
Yes.
It's also funny at times.
A drama,
and
horror,
it's very
funny.
psychological.
That's M. Night. That's a calling card. Like even this film, as sort of grim as it is at times,
has some humor.
there's jokes.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily M. Night twist. It's
Sure,
just weird.
Of course.
Well, you don't know what's happening yet,
It's
Casey.
just weird.
He's gonna hit you with the twist
That's
at
true.
some point.
That's true.
Yeah.
But it's not like trying your patience. Like it's not like Lost or something where you're like, is this going to pay off or not? Like
How
it's
dare
not kind
you
of
speak against Lost?
I did finally with this movie. I think figured out who Rupert Grint is. Like when I see that name in writing, like I've never seen a Harry Potter movie, and I would always see that name and be like, is that a person's name or like a Harry Potter character's name? Because it 100% looks like a character name from that movie. Anyway, we'll get to him and his questionable Boston accent in a little bit here. Let's take a quick break and discuss Knock at the Cabin.
This is it, Senator. Your big break in TV. From the prime time. Main feature.
I did, John, cumulatively live in Boston for 10 years. So at least on this crew, I think that makes me the most qualified to judge his accent. I can pick out regionalism, so I think that, cut above here.
It's fair. Fair.
John Schnars.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel in a word, one word, how do you feel about M. Night Shyamalan?
Peaceful.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
You feel personally peaceful.
Yeah. You see where I went with that? Because
I like that.
To your point, we've lived.
We're old dogs. We've been around a long time. Like at some
We've
point,
lived the career.
It takes a lot to get a rise out of us at some point.
We covered The Happening on this here podcast.
Right. If you want to hear Angry M. Night, go hop on patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror and listen to our review of The Happening.
Yeah, it's worth noting I don't think we covered what's Lady in the Water.
We absolutely did.
I've never seen it, so to the extent it was covered, I either didn't participate or
we definitely did, because I remember ranting about Sam Rockwell. No, is it Sam Rockwell or somebody else? There's a character in that movie that for some reason has worked out and has one giant arm. That's the one thing I remember from Lady in the Water.
Yeah.
And
how did you guys feel about the?
And Lady in the Water. Lady in the Water is the one where M. Night Shyamalan cast himself as like a movie reviewer that's going to save the world or something like that, or like he's like an author. That's
I think he's a writer. He's always in the movie, right? So that was where I was going. Is what was your grade on his cameo here? Because
too much.
I would say like high, like.
Yeah, I liked it.
Too much. I don't want to see him that much. He's a terrible actor. So
wait, you mean in this movie?
In this
was
movie,
too much too?
Yeah.
No. Oh, I thought it was.
I want to see him in like a reflection walking by in the background of a scene, and that's literally it.
I think that's Unbreakable 1.
Because to me, this is like, and he does it too. And well, I'm sure will come up tonight is not
Glass.
Split, but Glass. He's like a character in Glass, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
Like
he's not a character. He's on the television for 20 seconds in this movie.
It's too much.
Yeah. This movie felt like a good throwback to Arrested Development and the Cornballs.
Sure. I mean,
yes.
Okay. Yes.
When the dad was making that deep fried cornballs.
I'm with you.
No, I mean, I like vaguely
I
remember
understand the reference.
But, yeah, it's also like if that's what he was referencing here, good on him. Like for the 25 people that picked that up.
John, please bring us the word of the day.
Eric, today's word is portent. 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 A sign or warning that something, especially something momentous or calamitous, is likely to happen. There's also a literary definition. It says an exceptional or wonderful person or thing. I don't know. That's never heard it used that way before, but great. Comes to us from the Latin portendere. Portentum means an omen or token. That's also in the Latin. And then eventually passes through the English, and here we are. Omen, I guess, is where you would start that definition.
John, tell me what that has to do with this movie, and tell me about this movie.
Yeah, I guess we should, I don't know, like lay down like a general spoiler.
Yeah,
However,
I think so.
I would put forth that this entire movie's plot is revealed in the trailer. So to the extent you've seen the trailer to this film, there's not like secrets here.
Right, and the final, it's not even a twist really at the end, but like the final kind of decision, like it's not really a twist. It's just you got to pick one thing or the other, and so like.
Yeah, we'll get to that, but this is like the least twisty of any M. Night.
All of our reviews are spoiler heavy, so just know that.
Sure, but I guess what I was gonna say is I'm gonna like lay out the so here it is, because it's there's a lot involved, but like the setup is a lot, but like then the mechanics of what's happening plot wise are not. You've got a family of 3. We'll start with them. there's two fathers. It's a gay couple, and they've adopted a daughter who's Chinese. They are doing a vacation in Pennsylvania. It's sort of like the Poconos, maybe. I mean, and I say that mainly because I think they reference Philly a couple times. He's also from the area. He like kind of is like around where I actually grew up. He being M. Night. And they're at this cabin. They're there to do a weekend. Literally, they've just shown up at the cabin, and Dave Bautista walks out of the woods, approaches the daughter who's out catching crickets or whatever, and basically says like, hey, you got to go back in the cabin, and like some bad stuff's about to start happening. 3 other people show up. They then explain to this family after a tussle to get into the cabin that they explain to the 2 dads that these 4 people have collectively seen the same vision of the end of the world, and the only way to prevent the end of the world is that the family, the 3 of them, have to decide which of them is going to be a sacrifice to save humanity, and that then the family has to kill that person who is the sacrifice. And that is the concept to save the world. And so then the plot of the film is that they basically are given opportunities to make the choice. When they don't make the choice, one of the 4 people, and we can kind of go through them. I mean, you mentioned Rupert Grint, Dave Bautista, this actress Nikki Amuka Bird, and then Abby Quinn. And we've seen all these folks. I mean, they're solid, recognizable actors. Each time the family refuses to choose, the sort of like 4 people kill one of their group, and in like pretty graphic ways.
I was a little fuzzy. I was a little fuzzy on the rules there, but we can talk about it.
Well, so then they die, and then like a bad thing happens, and so that we go through a cycle of that because there's a lot of we can get into it. Like the family doesn't want to make the choice for obvious reasons. 4 random strangers show up at your cabin explaining to you like a super crazy thing. You're not making this choice. And so then the film, the sort of narrative arc of the film is sort of, will they make this choice to save humanity? Is that even like a real thing that's happening? Or is there some sort of craziness among these 4 people and so on and so forth? So along the way, you get some of the background of the 4 people, and then you get a lot of background about the family and sort of how this couple came together, what they've sort of been through, the sort of homophobia that they've experienced in their lives, and sort of both individually and together. And then we also learn about their adoption of this daughter and so on and so forth. So that's the tee up.
I wasn't listening, but I'm sure that was great.
No, yeah, I could tell.
Matilda, as our guest tonight, what did you think of this movie? And you also, because you're very smart, went and read the book in like a couple days, which we got to talk about that. You're like, I picked it up this weekend, right?
I mean, I did the audio book, so just know I was listening with one ear while I'm like doing the dishes for a couple days. But I know there was a lot of scuttlebutt about like people being unhappy that the book and the movie were a little bit different. So I wanted to know what that was about.
So this is the author that wrote House of Grass, or what's that other book? It's like a pretty well-known and well-loved horror author and book.
Yeah.
Yes, and the book has a different name, which is The Cabin at the End of the World.
Mm-hmm.
The author is Paul Tremblay, just for the record.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, and I would say that I am kind of, like John, you said peaceful. I'm kind of agnostic going into an M. Night Shyamalan movie. Generally, like, I don't have a ton of faith, but I'm also not like, I'm out, I'm so mad going into this. I'm not in that camp. And I thought this was solid. The performances are really good. The camera work is very, very pretty. The pacing is actually great. I don't feel like it falls too hard at any point, and it's not excessively long. I do think, and we had talked about this a little bit in the before the show, like I don't think the tension ever got to where the tension needed to go. And this is pretty grim and gory material told in a pretty non-grim and gory way for the most part. I mean, most of the violence happens off camera. Most of the kind of world violence and disaster is happening off camera, with the exception of one shot, which we'll talk about, which is pretty great. But I think for that reason, it doesn't necessarily, I wasn't gripped in the same way that I wanted to be, other than by the performances. I kept thinking, these people are doing so well in this movie, and that's not necessarily, so I was like a little bit in and a little bit out for the most of it, most of it.
Casey.
Yeah, I did really like oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead. I did want to say, I did really like going into the trailer. I thought that it was just going to be that one big kind of like, what would you do in this situation question. I think it even says like, what would you do in the trailer or something like that, or in the materials for this. And I thought that the choice to have a gay couple in that, in this position, who we see have had to, like, the outside world is something they've had to defend themselves against, kind of complicates and layers that question a little bit.
And
so
I presume
I
that
did like that.
Yeah.
I presume that's in the book also.
It is.
Okay, figured.
Yeah.
Casey, what'd you think?
I ended up loving like 90% of this movie. It kind of falls off at the very end. It's the finale that I have issues with. I had kind of hoped it'd be more ambiguous in the finale. Otherwise, I didn't know for sure what I was getting into. I never really watched the trailer. I haven't read the book, but I was aware of it. I didn't know for sure what was going on here. So as the story unfolded, I was really wrapped up into it, and I was really sucked into it. And I thought it was cool. There's kind of a Four Horsemen analogy going on here, and it literally made me think, oh, which was cool in the moment of watching it. And I really enjoyed that part of it. It's just at the end, I wish it would have been, they put too fine of a point on the ending of this, on the very finale. And I'm talking like the last 5-10 minutes of this movie that they put too fine a point on. And that's where my issues pop up. Beyond that, I thought the acting and stuff was great. It looked great. Dave Bautista, I got to tell you, I'm blown away. I thought he was awesome.
He was.
And from the very moment he showed up, I'm sitting there as a viewer of this movie, watching the movie, like, I don't know if I should trust him, but I want to trust him because he seems really nice and he seems really cool. And it was nice to see that carries through his character throughout the movie, that, you know, there's some weird shit going on, but he's a good dude. And I really connected with that. And I thought it was super impressive from Dave Bautista. We know him as Drax the Destroyer, a couple other movies. He's usually typecasted as your typical action guy, and there was a lot of depth to his character, and I thought he really pulled it off.
John.
Yeah, I mean, the movie, I guess this is like where I am overall with M. Night, because I feel in some ways the same way I felt about Old, which is they're very well made. Like,
They're
he's very
if you were gonna have to like create a list of like quality of his movies, I think those two would be neck and neck, his last two.
Yeah.
They when I say they're well made, they're well directed. Matilda mentioned the pacing. The acting is really solid. There's a lot of folks that, you know, he uses over and over. The woman who plays, I think her name's Sabrina, the actress in the movie. I was just looking. Yeah, Sabrina, who's like one of the four. She was in Old. You know, Dave Bautista, I don't know that he's worked with before, but you guys mentioned Rupert Grint. Like, you know, there's some folks come back. The other we haven't mentioned, but like the couple, the one dad I didn't know, Daddy Andrew, but Jonathan Groff plays Daddy Eric, who just, what a delight, that Jonathan Groff. Just love that guy. So it's extremely well acted. It is well directed, you know, in that, you know, it hits a lot of notes. It's also, it looks good. Like, it's a pretty looking film. I don't know that I mean, Matilda, you hit on some of the things with like the way the violence and the action plays off screen. I was actually curious. This is rated PG-13. No, it's rated R. What I don't understand with an R-rated movie some of the decisions they made, because I think they could have probably given this a little bit more of an edge for an R-rated film. Like, who are you turning off at a certain point, right? Like, it's already rated R, and we can come back to that. But it like both looks good, but then some of the decisions are just weird.
It's bizarre that it's rated R. Like, why?
Well, there was a lot of cursing.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of like, you can be rated R for just putting kids in peril.
So why not just go all the way? Yeah. It's good.
Yeah. Well, and look, I liked some of the imagery of when they put the socks on their face or whatever the fuck those things are they were putting on their face. There's good images in this movie. I think ultimately for me, and I'm so curious about the book because it does seem to have like this devoted following. I just think like structurally this story doesn't work, at least the way they tell it here, and that's why I'm very curious how the book is different. You mentioned some of the stuff over email. The tension of the film is sort of like, will these people kill one of their 3-person family to save humanity? But we as the audience, and they certainly don't know that decision is like a real decision for like a large part of the film, because the first 2 calamities that happen, you know, after the first 2 people die, it's all a little like, I don't know. I mean, there is plausible explanations that certainly the one dad is trying to work through, and then the other dad who has a concussion is just like fucking clueless. And I don't know. So there's a lot of like, what the hell's happening here? But also like, we're all just sitting there like, all right, just tell us what's happening, because at a certain point we're in the same darkness that they are. There's no, I guess another way to say it is, there's no dramatic tension. We don't know something that the characters don't know, and like similarly, they don't know anything that we don't know. Even the 4 people who have these visions, they're like taking it on faith that all this stuff is real and happening. And so it's a little like we're all like being revealed the same things at the same time, which is a bit of a weird position to put the audience vis-a-vis the characters. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm pretty on board with everybody here. I enjoyed this movie. I think it's pretty decent. And frankly, I think like decent's a good spot for M. Night to be, because I feel like for years he was either knocking him out of the park or just falling flat on his face. Like and I like the word peaceful for as far as a feeling about him, because it, like, to me, he's like this sort of precocious artist. Like, you can't hold this dude down. He's gonna do some crazy shit, and it may or may not work, but he doesn't care. I saw this interview where somebody was kind of asking him about critics, and he was like, he's like, I don't really care like what people say about what I do, and like, that doesn't. I don't always love when people are like that, because sometimes it can just come across weird. But I just kind of, I don't know. I admire the fact that he stayed doing what he does and like has had wins.
Well,
and I
that's
think it's
the thing.
an improvement
Like,
that his like.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just think like making an okay movie is pretty good for him. I feel like when he's shown that he has the ability to make just absolute turd bombs when he takes big swings. These last 2 movies have just been like good, decent, like little horror thrillers, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, he's always. I was gonna try and pull up the numbers. Like, he's been commercially viable. Even his like worst movies are not like absolute bomb flops, because
he's continued. He's fought to keep himself relevant even through.
Well, and he works within a budget and then delivers movies that people do go see. Like, this was, I think, #1 at the box office.
And I think what's been interesting is, again, like we watched this happen after Avatar, whatever that movie he did with Will.
Oh yeah, not the
yes.
Not the James.
No, I'm thinking.
I thought you were talking about the new
After Earth. So he did the Avatar a lot. He did that movie After Earth with Will Smith, right? Bombed so bad that I think it might have been Avatar, where his name wasn't even on. Like, he went through a period where distributors would not put his name in the advertising, which was a huge drop for a person who was like M. Night Shyamalan's The Village or whatever, right? Yeah. And now he's kind of back to a place where he can put his name on stuff, and I just think that's a comeback story that I can get behind.
Because it came back with The Visit, right?
As
with
bad
the grandparents.
as bad as Glass was, I've forgiven him for that. But anyway, I think what's interesting, like there are some like really fantastic performances in this movie, and I think everybody's kind of talking about Batista, and I think that he, I'm sure, has something working in his favor that it's just unexpected. Like you just, especially if you don't know him and his work that well, you're not really expecting this like layered performance. And I think what he is portraying here that is so interesting is like a timidness. Like he is sort of a shy, timid person who believes in what he feels, but like has trouble being as assertive as he kind of needs to be in the situation. Like he's sort of forced to try to find that in himself kind of throughout the movie. But watching that layered, subtle performance is really fascinating. And in the very first scene you see him, you are like, oh, is this guy like scary? But I would say within 5 minutes you're like, oh, you kind of know the deal, and you're not scared of him really. But I also think that hinders. I think that hinders the film. Like I think that structure, which in a book I could totally see gives you all of this room for like deep character studies across the board. Like I'm sure you get to know everybody in this like story really well in the book in a way that keeps you engaged. The problem is that because the idea is that they can't kill them or hurt them, I think it diffuses a lot of the actual plot tension. And because the Batista character is like likable. Like I'm not saying there's no tension. And the human stuff is the best part of the movie. I just think it's a trade-off. I think by making them so real and human and kind of timid about what they're doing, you do diffuse the horror a little bit. So for me, the second act just drags. Like there's actually like you can like hear the like wheel crank at the beginning of the third act. It's like it becomes a different movie instantaneously. The pace picks up, the tension picks up, the action picks up after this just long stretch where you're like, good God, like now, and you are in the second act fleshing out the lives of these father characters, which is pretty interesting stuff. It just kind of goes on for a while. I think my favorite performance, honestly, is I'll call him Angry Daddy. I love Frozen dude there. Was that his name? Jonathan Goff. But I think the other dude, you feel his trauma and torture, and he's fighting so hard to keep his own shit together for the sake of like this family and this relationship that has clearly helped him in so many ways, but he always seems like he's keeping it together by a thread, and like that is some of the best tension in the movie, honestly, is like just waiting for him to lose his mind.
Well, it's pretty realistic too, because you see that through the flashbacks, you see the angry dad does not have the familiar support, family support and stuff like that the other dad does. The other dad's family seem to be supporting and completely accepting to their relationship and them adopting a daughter and stuff like that, whereas there was always that angst from angry dad and his parents that they never fully accepted him. Like that flashback that they showed where his parents drove 7 hours to have lunch with them and stayed 45 minutes and left was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I want to do a thought experiment here.
Sure.
And this is where maybe we can pull in the book stuff too. Like, let's say you're these four people and you honestly believe that you need to the thing that is confusing about this is, to one extent, the timeline of like when it's all happening or when it all needs to happen by, but also like, okay, you need to convince three people that they need to kill one of them. There's just like better ways to go about it than to show up with a bunch of creepy weapons and like, I don't know, like it just, so this is where like that's the part that there's a bit of a, believability hump you got to get over. And I actually, like, while I'm sitting there watching the movie, I'm just like, oh yeah, I guess this is how it happened. As soon as you start thinking about it after the fact, I'm like, wait, why did they have the axe with like the wire around it, and it also had like a hoe or something?
Yeah, you're kind of expecting an explanation for like the ornamental nature of the weapons, and you don't really get it.
Yeah, well, and they're acting. None of the four people. This is all somewhat backstory. Like they didn't know each other. They're coming from different parts of the country. They all had this vision. Is it like, were they religious? Was it a religious fit? Like there's a believe they jump to belief so quickly among the four of them, and then to your like there's some like arcane elements to what they're doing that I just felt like we didn't get quite enough for it to feel earned. And so I'm sure some of that stuff is covered differently in the book. But there's a universe of it. What's interesting, I mean, it's not spoiler again, because there's not really spoilers in this movie. They do all this stuff at the very, very end where they like reveal that like, look, all these people were all telling the truth because like, here's his badge from the Boston Power Company, and here's the picture of him with his teams at the intramural sports thing. At that point in the film, if you didn't believe that he worked at the power company and the other guy was intramural, like, what are you left to believe? Like, it was just ridiculous. I didn't understand. I would have much preferred getting some backstory of those characters earlier. I don't know how you do that structurally without making this movie 2.5 hours long, but it just, I don't know. There was like, it's where there was like an unevenness to the time spent with the family and then the time spent with these four people who in reality, all of them and all of their sort of like belief structures around this apocalyptic event, like it matters a lot. Like it matters that the four people believe this stuff really firmly and that the other three people don't believe it and they have to convince them. Like that's the whole arc of the film.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, they only really show you the one side to some extent.
Yeah, I mean, I myself, I go into any movie with a strong sense of suspension of belief. And as they started to explain things, the idea that these were the four horsemen of the apocalypse with a different definition that you would typically hear from Revelations, because they all had different definitions than pestilence and war and famine, etc. But at the same time, it's pretty easy to fall into the belief if they're going to become the four horsemen of apocalypse, they're going to get these strong visions and believe whatever is told them. But that does require a strong sense of disbelief, or a suspension of disbelief, I should say.
Speaking of suspension of disbelief, I sort of had, I mean, I get it in context of the movie, but it bugged me how perfectly timed the news segments were. It bugged me that he'd kind of be like, turn on the TV, and they'd just be like, breaking news, and right now, weird end of the world stuff happening.
Yeah.
And like because one of them's like a pandemic, and you're like, okay, like that's been happening for months.
Like tons of people start dying right away. Yeah.
See, and that one's bullshit. That one's bullshit because the other ones you could at least argue like, oh, they refused, so planes just started falling from the sky. But with the pandemic one, like, so you're telling me he just perfectly timed that report about this like death.
Well, the tsunami one was even better because they kept pointing to that at a couple times. Angry Dad pointed out that they knew about those earthquakes like 4 hours before those people showed up at the cabin.
Well, or one of them they knew about, maybe not the second one or something.
No,
like
but
that,
the tsunami.
Right, but they knew of some of them. They had to have happened before those people showed up at the cabin. I bought into that.
But that's where the timeline stuff is so weird. Like, does the book take place over a month or something? Like, that's where
it's wonky. But it's more my beef of like, I just think he could have been a little more delicate with the way he, like, I don't know, man. It's just Batista being like, turn on the TV, and then it's like, oh, we get the perfect thing we need to see, and then he turns it off, and it's like, okay.
Well, they did flip around at one point.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, we'll find it.
Now, I will say though, but like the news reports are key because in a movie with like 6-7 people in it, it's the only time you get to add scope to it, and the tsunami scene is really cool, and it's like shot. They don't really get into this, but I guess you could argue it was like an Instagram Live or something like that. Because otherwise, how would you get this video from this phone? That's
how did that video get on?
Like all they needed to do was add some little floating hearts over it to make it look like it was a live stream, right? But they didn't. But nonetheless,
free pointer. There's some free feedback.
That it's fucking easy, John. Like, come on, you're a professional filmmaker. But that reminded me of like the famous found footage clip in Signs of the alien at the birthday party. Like that's a famous M. Night moment that people cite as being like one of the scariest moments ever. And now this isn't that scary, but it does, like, it's done really well. It adds scope, and they do a little more of it with the planes and stuff. Like, I could have used even more, honestly, because it does make the film feel bigger, which I think you kind of need.
Now, I'm going to lean on Tilly for this part because I haven't read the book, and I know, Tilly, you've finished it recently. From what I've read on social media, etc., I was really taken by the performance of Gwen in this movie. I thought that little girl was great, and her enthusiasm and everything. I thought her acting was awesome. But I hear from what I've read, the outcome of Gwen is a lot different in the book than it is in the movie. And it
That's true. And I think
it kind of affects the ending.
Go on.
I mean, a couple things as we're talking about this last piece, and this is not a spoiler for the book, that I think would have been important if they had a little bit more of this in the movie that we didn't have. And that is that Eric, the dad who ends up concussed, is pretty religious, like comes from a religious background, is still religious. It's a bit of a tension in the marriage.
Interesting. And there's kind of like,
I feel like that, and you get some of that, and you get that background, and I feel like this makes more sense. Like what we're seeing in the movie makes more sense.
There's a small moment where it's kind of suggested that the other dad wants to make sure he's not going that direction, but yeah, you don't have context for why he might think that.
It's kind of a throwaway line.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about, Eric.
Yeah. Casey, when you were talking, I mean, I don't want to say too much about the book because I feel like if you liked this concept and these characters, I want people to go read it, because of the two, I think the ending of the book is the one that I like better. And so I don't want to say too much about it, but there's something that happens with Wen right at the moment that you all in the emails were saying, like, boy, it really dips at this moment. That's where that got excised from the
Interesting
script or from the story. Yeah.
And getting into full spoiler territory here, let's talk about the ending. They, from everything I've read, again, I haven't read the book, but it seems like the ending of the book is a lot more ambiguous, whereas the movie, they go out of their way to definitely show us that everything's solved and everything's going to be okay. And I think that really detracts from the 90% of this movie that I loved. Thoughts?
You were not into the Boogie Shoes sing along?
I loved Boogie Shoes.
By the way,
that was fine.
Sweet.
I was not.
It was the diner scene and seeing like, oh, everything's resolved, everything's okay.
So
everything's gonna be good.
But
That's the part that didn't sit well.
It's really interesting that you say that though, because that's kind of how I read it. But then I saw a bunch of people on Twitter. But I saw a bunch of people being like, no, that's not the ending. Like the world's really fucked up and is gonna be like, is irrevocably changed. But I wonder if that's somebody bringing context from the book over.
Or context from us living through fucking COVID-19.
Maybe like it was the kind of tweet that really pisses me off.
Or
where they're
tsunami.
Like, it's the kind of tweet that really pisses me off though, where they're like, I feel like I'm being gaslit. Where they're like, can you believe people thought that was a happy ending? And I'm just like, I mean, that's kind of the way the movie's like presenting it to me, right? Like,
well, to the extent the movie is about the main characters have a happy ending, right? Like, you know, Jonathan Groff makes it, you know, Daddy Eric
in
makes
particular because you get that speech from him where he's so at peace and just like, you know.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I thought, Casey, the part you were reacting to was this movie goes very, very close and you know, fair to say over the line of like over explaining and sort of over hand holding the audience at the end. So you have, there's the whole like, these were the 4 horsemen and we had to meet them and they had to die and now I am at peace. Like there's like this very sort of
the 4
specific. Pretty much the entire diner scene.
The 4 horsemen thing actually really pissed me off because he says it in a way like the text of the film at all supports that. I was like, fucking, I'm like, oh, you mean these characters that are dead and I remember nothing about already? Like, oh, this character's like blah blah blah, and I don't even get the connection he was making between the traits and the 4 horse. Like, what did that have to do with famine? Like, I don't get it.
Right.
But it's spit out really fast and very like, I agree. I forgot about that, but I agree.
The biggest thing is that the entire diner scene is they start to drive away and they come across the diner and they go into the diner and sit down and start watching news reports, and all the news reports are about, oh, everything magically stopped, everything's great, everything's getting
the
better,
viral load
it's going to be okay. So
it's
Yeah.
been 4
and
hours.
then they get in the car and sing Rock and Roll Boogie Shoes. Whereas if they would have ended this movie with the two of them getting into the truck and listening to Rock and Roll Boogie Shoes and driving off into the sunset without any of that diner stuff on what's happening in the world, would have been awesome, because you would have been left to wonder what's going on. Instead, it's like, oh, everything's going to be okay.
Oh. You wanted you didn't want the like we did it kind
Right.
of moment
I just like
that you get in the diner where everyone's exhaling. It's gonna be all right.
Right, because there is a huge buildup of tension all the way through Dave Bautista and his ending in this. And we are told specifically there's a few minutes after that moment that they can still turn things around. But we don't know for sure if they waited long enough or not. So if they would have left that in our head, did they wait long enough?
Like draw
did
out
they get it done in time?
Draw out the tension a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's a reason. I'll go even further and say there's a reason why my like favorite apocalypse movie is Melancholia, because like they just let it happen. Like the actual world ends.
Right.
Like it gives you the satisfaction you never get from these movies.
Yeah, because if they would have left it ambiguous, then there was still the weight of these people made the ultimate decision to sacrifice one of their family to stop this from happening, but they waited till the very last moment to let all this bad shit happen. And which you have to consider, because it is very much marked on every time they release a plague upon humanity. Because they put the mask on, somebody gets killed, one of the four. It's very marked. So each time they put the mask on, a plague is released. So you know that they've done damage to humanity. But then when we get to the end, we're like, oh, well, it doesn't matter because everything's better. And they drive off into the sunset instead of what the hell's going to happen now.
But this is where it's all just ridiculous. Like,
Yeah.
Why this family? Why? Like, that's what's a little like, you do just have to be happy for those two people, even though you're right. Like, if they had just killed Jonathan Groff right away, the world is obviously in a better place than it is at the end of the movie. But it was also absurd to think that they were ever going to kill him right away. You know,
Yeah.
like that was never a real outcome, which again is why the tension never feels real, because there was just never a chance that was going to happen.
Was Jonathan Groff the concussed dad?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point,
dad.
because they're building up all this tension on making this decision, and all of a sudden Jonathan Groff turns to, well, I'm the one, take me. I'm concussed, take me out. And it's just like cleanly wrapped up. That is where it starts to fall apart for me.
Yeah, and I also have a question about the mythology of this movie. I think they say something about how families throughout history have had to do this.
Yeah.
So, like, is that throughout history, like once every 500 years, or is that like next week a different family might make a different decision, and then we didn't have to kill them? Like,
Yeah.
that didn't make a ton of sense. And are those four different people, presumably, right, that get this vision and
Yeah.
coming
It's not the
together
same
and-
people, because they would have gotten better at convincing people. Well, they also murdered a bunch of them.
Yeah, I
during
decided
the-
not to think too hard about that part, but
Yeah. That, and who was the previous four for the last family, right?
yeah. Was
Yeah.
that 2 years ago? Was that 500 years ago?
Well,
Right.
and I guess like
This is where
and like
Okay.
are we to understand that this is like the first time that anyone's ever refused this much? Like, wouldn't everybody kind of refuse? Wouldn't there be like apocalypses all the time almost?
Well, maybe that was the Black Plague and so on and so forth.
Ah.
Yeah, I mean, it was COVID that they refused the first time and decided second, right?
Eric, you were joking. I think it was last week's episode that your brother Mark was very upset because this was basically Cabin in the Woods.
Mhm, but not fun.
He's not wrong.
Yeah, no, he's not. He's not at all.
Yeah.
So
I would take Cabin in the Woods over this movie, to be fair.
Well,
yeah. I mean, come on.
I see him as completely different myself.
They're very similar. If you strip away the tone, they're extremely similar concepts. Like it's kind of, it's actually kind of wild.
That's fair. I keep forgetting about that very last moment of Cabin in the Woods. So
I mean, that's what it's about, is like sacrificing people to the elder gods. So they're now, the difference being like those people aren't theoretically supposed to know what's happening. Like they just outsmart whatever.
Yeah.
Now I want to watch Cabin in the Woods. It's a good movie.
But I mean, does anybody else want to catch grasshoppers with Dave Bautista after this? I kind of do.
He seems like a cool dude. I just watched that Knives Out movie too. I didn't love the movie like a lot, but I did like him in it. He's fun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard similar things.
I've seen a couple articles talking about how Dave Bautista as an actor is starting to outstrip Dave Bautista's career as a wrestler.
Oh, I
think is interesting.
I mean, I think I've heard people rightfully say that like he's probably the best actor that's ever come out of wrestling.
Yeah, and I think the only really showcases that.
The only comparable
Dwayne Johnson's gonna be upset to hear this.
But
not that he's a great actor.
I don't think The Rock has ever shown range like this, nor And the only other person I think you'd put in the conversation is John Cena, and he is a person who's tried. I mean, he's done some other stuff. He's certainly tried to have some range.
He's now more almost like a presenter. He's done like so many game shows. I feel like and things
he
like
is
that.
now. John Cena is really funny. Like he did. What is that movie where they're like trying to track down his daughter?
Cock Blockers? Isn't that what it's called?
Blockers is awesome.
Blockers.
Yeah, like he's really funny in that movie. But yeah, Batista, man, he's cool. He's a good dude.
Do you want to try a German IPA or?
Is there anything else you guys want to talk about? How was your theater experience? I was in RPX.
I don't think so.
With like 4 other people, and that was pretty sweet.
So I was at I went with friends of the show, Matt and Jamie, here in New York, and we were in the Dolby Theater in like one of the AMC's. I don't know, they just like slapped a bunch of extra, color on the outside of it. That said, good seats. It was basically like up to IMAX in terms of like quality of screen and sound system, but just not the humongous screen. Yeah. So Dolby Theater, I'm in for that now. Going forward, I guess.
I had a fine experience, and it was a fairly full theater, but it wasn't like too crowd interactive or anything like that. I heard a couple of like that throughout the movie, which is cool, but that was about the extent.
As long as I can get my feet up on that seat in front of me, I'm feeling pretty good. And I was, so there you go.
Yeah. I went 2 towns over to this theater that I hadn't been to, and I live kind of where I grew up. I hadn't been to this theater in probably 25 years, and they just completely re-tricked it out and made it this massive. It's like this old historic theater, and it's now like heated Barca loungers at every seat, and I had it pretty much to myself. There were 2 people in the back and me, and so the screen was so big and so good, I needed a little relief from being that close to Dave Bautista's face at first, I have to say.
Okay. Much. Thank you. Actually, I do have one more thing to say. I could not stand the fucking close-ups. Like, I understand it as a creative choice, but it's too much. And when you're in a movie theater, you're legit, like, counting people's pores on their face. Mm-hmm. Like, if you have a thing about pores, do not watch this movie. Like, you will have issues.
Yeah. I liked it. I was there for it as a creative choice.
I just felt lazy to me. Like, I don't to just do everything in close up. Like, what is the point of that? I don't get it. I understand I understand it in certain scenes to like accentuate certain kind of reactions and stuff. But when you're doing it every fucking shot, I just feel like it's like laziness.
It was
it's laziness masquerading as creativity. I feel like.
As a man with a large head, I could totally sympathize with some of those close-up shots of the strain on the glasses that were on Dave Bautista's face.
He does have. I think he would probably even admit that he's got quite the melon.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, love it.
But he pulls it off well.
All right, would you recommend this movie, Matilda?
Yeah.
Casey?
Yes.
Jonathan?
I'll say at home. I can give it it's like a halfway recommend.
I think I'm with you, John. I think I'm with you. All right. Let's take a quick break and do some fan mail.
Send feedback to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or on Twitter using hashtag AskBGH. Join Patreon to get back episodes and much more. Patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror.
And we're back. John, I took an email today from, I don't know if this person was a listener or they just found us online, but wanted to interview somebody for a research paper on My Bloody Valentine. And they reached out to us to find a horror expert, John. So I was like,
and you were like, I
was
happen
like,
to know one.
sure,
It's me.
Sure, kid. Send me what you got. So I was doing that before the show. I think that makes me like a professor emeritus. Is that how that works?
Yeah, I think that's how that works.
Yeah.
You're on your way.
You know, John, I like to give back every once in a while.
Being an expert witness.
Yeah.
Cement my place in history. You know, it's good times.
This kid like used ChatGPT to write the rest of his paper, but he got like several quotes from Eric. So.
That's cool. Put me into there. I want to be a part of it. Train your AI on my thoughts. The world could only be a better place. Yeah. Patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror, John. If you were on Patreon, you right now could be watching a video live stream on YouTube. You could see Matilda's amazing green hair. You could see Casey's like Grateful Dead Jesus look that he's been rocking the last couple of years. John, I don't know what your look is. What is that? Like a Skarsgård cousin?
Sure. I'll take that.
Yeah.
That's like the nicest thing you've ever said to me, I think so.
I say nice things to you all the time. You may not like them because they're creepy, but I still say them all the time.
Oh,
Can I just say real quick while Eric's inflating my ego that I did have 6 inches cut off my hair.
Wow. It's looking good, buddy.
that's wild. Because that shit's still long.
It is.
What kind of shampoo are you using on that mane there?
I used the old lady white enhancing shampoo. It's like a dark purple.
Oh yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
And then is there a conditioner built in there too?
I don't know, but it makes my hair nice and fluffy.
Interesting.
I like
Wait,
it.
what is white enhancing?
Yes, it's like to help keep your gray and blonde hair from yellowing as you go over time. It helps enhance it and makes it stand out.
Okay.
Cool.
Stately.
I need some for my beard, I guess.
Yeah.
So, John, at patreon.com, you can get a live stream of the show. You can get back episodes. You can join in our amazing Slack community. You hang out in Slack long enough, we'll just put you in charge of the website. That literally happened.
That's actually an invitation. So.
Yeah, BGH was down this week. It's back now. We're in the process of fixing it with some help from Mark.
Thank you, Cram.
Casey, from Jody, and some lovely patrons. Shelton's been helping out. We did get to see Mark's amazing 404 image of the site, like which is that amazing photo of you, John, with a mustache from like the Philippines or something back
The
in the day.
handlebar.
Yeah, I was in Indonesia. That was when I did a trip. Yeah, I missed the show that week, and I sent a pic. It's my
classic.
pic. It's the pic I was using as my icon or like my whatever on the site. I think that's where he must have grabbed it.
Well, I also
Is it a
keep
real
it.
mustache?
Yeah, well, it was like I just like let the.
I also keep it in my
You know,
schnar
side
sensor,
skirt.
but you know. So yeah, the site's back. If you happen to notice that it was down, apologies for the inconvenience, John. Patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror. Also, if you want to email us, info@bloodygoodhorror.com. Caitlin from Kissimmee is just on a tear this week, and like more than one of these emails, I feel like she's taking shots at us. So I'm not going to read them all, John. I feel like she's.
No, it's fine.
It's like she's telling us we don't have it or something anymore.
You have that editorial right /power.
She does take issue that I guess maybe me, because I was the one who was going hard on not liking Black Phone.
Well, see, because I missed that episode, and then I ranted about it in a subsequent episode. But
yeah, did you also not like it?
Black Phone. Yeah, that movie.
High five.
I hate it more the further I get away from it.
It's trash. It's trash tier.
I was okay
the
with
most
it.
absurd thing I've ever seen. Whatever.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh God. The phone. Matilda, don't get me started. It's.
She is fired up here about Skinamarink. She's oh my god, John, it's fucking Skin.
Wait, is she pro Skinamarink?
No. I'm trying so
thank
hard
God.
to be mature about this movie. Like I got my feelings out, but like it's just I continue to see it on Twitter, and then like people keep bringing it back up on Slack, and I'm like, you guys gotta stop. I only have so much self control here to not dive into this conversation. Caitlin says, I don't listen to your newer episodes right away, but Skinamarink, from what you're saying, is actually a creepypasta from the later 2000s. I listened to this story on the No Sleep podcast probably 7 years ago. Does no one care anymore about that stuff? With a world full of research and the absolute guarantee you could have as a filmmaker to not steal content, it's really, really sad this made well over $1 million. Also, I absolutely do not believe that leaked content ever actually is accidental anymore. Thank you, Caitlin. Seems like the new age... quote, this movie made someone die in the theater ploy. Thoughts? I think fully... Well, no, what did I say in the show? I think I said that I just like the idea that it did happen accidentally. Because to think that it was intentional makes the person sound really genius. And I kind of like to think that it was accidental. But
Matilda, have you seen Skinamarink?
No, but I have been watching the polarization with some interest.
Well, because I think it was like the week after we had Rachel and she hadn't seen. I'm so jealous of y'all not having but
Yeah,
at some
over on
point you're gonna have to
Discord,
weigh
too,
in.
There's people who liked it, people who also were like, that was bullshit, like
very polarizing.
yeah, at some point I'll need to watch it.
And I don't know if it was a joke or not, but I swear I saw like Skinamarink 2 greenlit or something like that. So get ready for that, John. 2020.
Get out of here. What are they gonna do? Set a camera up in a fucking dark corner for another 2 hours? Get out of here. I mean, they could make a second one. The first one cost $10 million or $10,000. Like, he probably made 3 of them while he was making the first.
$10,000? Oh,
Yeah,
that
he made it for like
we
10
covered
or 15
it.
grand.
We covered it. That's the camera, basically, is what that is. The camera, the camera and the Legos.
$60 on Legos.
I love it. Casey, what's on Twitter tonight?
All right. We got 3 tweets tonight. First up, let me see here. We have from @DuckSensual. What's your favorite M. Night acting performance in one of his movies?
0.
This might have been up there for me.
0.
He plays, so in this one, he's playing a, what is that, like a QVC? The sort of TV shopping.
Isn't he an old one of the?
Hawker?
Isn't he an old one of the scientists in the weirdly dimly lit lab at the end? The lab that's lit by like candlelight that they walk into. It's just like dramatic movie lit, but not science lit. Like you couldn't do science in this lab. That's the one thing I remember from it.
I forget where he shows up in all. He definitely was there.
I don't like him. I think
Yeah.
he's a bad actor and distracting. So I pretty much am just rolling my eyes anytime I see
Well,
him.
you want him as little as possible, or in like a goofy sort of, in a moment like this where yes, it was obviously distracting and ridiculous, but fine and not, it did not disturb the overall.
Yeah.
What was he in
He
the?
was like-
What was he in the Happening? Is he the guy that like drives his car into a tree or something? Remember, there's a dude that's like sitting there and they try to talk to him, and then he kills himself. I'm getting just blank stares
Sure.
for you people.
I don't know.
All right, next up we have from our longtime friend @Skizbot. The pitchfork axe combo seems effective. Sledgehammer on a chain, less so. What would you use to construct your own personal end of days weapon of doom?
They show so little of those deaths, I couldn't even tell you how they were dying. Like, were they... Because at first I thought they were, like, slamming their own heads into the implements. And then I'm like, oh, no, I think Batista's doing this? Like, I really couldn't tell.
The first one, they, like, double hit the person. Because they do then pull back, and you see both of them pull their implements out of their head.
It's very spatially confusing. I feel
Yeah, and you see Batista, like, do a big overhead swing on the first one.
But then Sabrina, when she gets shot, that's like what kills her effectively. And then he goes over, puts the hood on her, and then does
then smacks her one.
the full on. Yeah. So
I know what I was ready for some like real Rorschach stuff through those white masks, but we didn't get so much of that.
Well, you get with Batista when he gets it. There is that sequence of the blood drip. I see. That's where I liked some of the cinematography or sort of framing choices that were made around some of that stuff, but some of it was like odd and unhelpful.
I thought Rupert Grint, like when he was the first one to be sacrificed, and watching him put his mask on, I thought that whole breakdown of that scene was really effective. He was freaking out. He was upset, but he was doing what he had to do. I thought it was super effective.
I think it's weird that he has a connection.
And he was like, "Look at me."
I think it's weird that he has a connection to them that means nothing to the plot.
I agree.
That was weird.
That was very bizarre. Yeah.
That felt tacked on.
That was from the book, I presume. That's like a big plot point to invent for the
It's also true. Yeah, but it lets you get back to that scene of what's happened to Angry Dad.
Oh,
where you know that Angry Dad is also kind of like traumatized dad.
Well, and it gives you more reason for Angry Dad to be sort of disbelieving of them. Eric, you didn't get your commentary in on the Rupert Grint accent.
It's a little shaky, although I do think he's pretty creepy. I thought his performance was pretty good. I will say too,
his whole look.
This movie, a little bit orange and teal, but not aggressively so. And I think I was helped by having just seen There's Something Wrong with the Children, which, as we covered, is an egregious error in cinema of teal and orange.
All right. Finally, we have from @GRVSLV. For Matilda, fuck, marry, kill, Super Dave Osborne, Dave Grohl, or Dave Thomas of Wendy's fame.
Wait, who's Super Dave? Who's the first one? Super Dave?
Super Dave Osborne? Oh,
Super Dave.
Oh.
Like the stunt man?
Yes.
Yeah.
Slash comedian.
When he was on Curb, right?
Stunt man.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
I feel like you're supposed to want to fuck a stunt man, but that sounds exhausting.
Wait, who was the second one? It was Super Dave Wendy's.
Grohl.
Oh, Dave Grohl. Ooh.
Yeah, Dave Grohl or Dave Thomas of Wendy's fame. I mean, I'm gonna go with marry Dave Thomas for Wendy's fame. That's
me too.
That's a legacy, right?
I don't know. I really like a Frosty. I might go with the fucking Dave Thomas.
Yeah, but if you marry him, you get a Frosty every day.
Yeah, then it's Frosties for life.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you need a Frosty to be special. You know.
I bet you would still get the baked potato part.
That's hilarious.
Eric, you may appreciate the business school at Duke has a building named after Dave Thomas, the R. David Thomas Center.
Nice.
So after Wendy's guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go marry Super Dave.
I love Super Dave.
Poor Dave Grohl. Oh boy. Super Dave, you'd never be a boring.
I'm sure it would be mutual.
I would definitely. I would definitely kill.
Cranky old lady.
I would definitely kill Super Dave.
It would be mutual.
That's not the question.
Good God.
Nobody's asking what Super Dave would do.
That's it for Twitter.
No
Eric.
one's asking. No one's asking Super Dave to F, marry, kill the BGH podcast.
Well, technically they can't anymore.
Yeah.
All right. Saying it's not mean if it's mutual.
That's true. We outlived you, Super Dave. You might say we won in the end.
That's it for Twitter, Eric. What do you got on Instagram?
We got some good ones. A lot of M. Night Shyamalan questions. What movie had the best twist ending ever, not limited to M. Night? My pick for this was Saw.
Oh, God, that is a good one.
I remember sitting in the theater and people losing their shit when that dude gets up at the end. Like, that is such a good moment.
I don't know. I would have had to, you got to give me, a list for me to pick from, I think. But Saw is very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
I mean,
pretty
the Sixth
into.
Sense is really good.
Well, we'll
The
get
Yeah.
first
there's
time you get
questions
that
later on about M. Night's specific twists.
one. Okay.
I was pretty into Sixth Sense myself when I saw it the first time. Even though Colleen, my wife, was like, "How did you not figure that out?"
I didn't.
Uh,
I didn't.
guys, Planet of the Apes.
That's a real good
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Yeah,
original
that's good
OG.
stuff.
Damn dirty apes.
Yeah.
Take your hands off me, you dirty.
I've talked
Yeah.
about this before, and now you gotta get me on this fucking ranting. Not a rant, but AMC used to just do Planet of the Apes marathons where they'd show all the insane sequels they made, and they had this great
Yeah.
documentary series. You just
We talked about it recently, didn't we? I think we covered this.
Yes, we did.
Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas.
I think Casey sang the songs then too.
Yeah.
Actually, so.
Can I play the piano anymore? Well, of course you can, because I couldn't before.
What do you all think is the most disappointing Shyamalan movie?
The Happening.
I mean, it's that or Lady in the Water, which as I said, I have not even seen.
Here-
So
I will say Glass because Split was like his comeback, and it's so good. You're like, oh shit, yeah, make another one of those. And the quality drop off is astonishing, like how different those movies are.
Yeah.
I agree with you that it is in the top 3 worst. I'm not even gonna fight. Like, it could be the worst, but The Happening was so.
He didn't say
comically bad.
worst; he said disappointing. Now
Oh,
the argument,
okay, that's fair.
the argument I will make for The Happening is like the trailers made that look scary, so you're hoping to go in and get like and if you remember, it was his first R-rated movie. That's why there was hype around The Happening. 'Cause people were like, "Oh shit, what's it gonna be?"
See, but The Happening relied entirely on Marky Mark saying, "It's the trees."
That was around the era too when like SNL was parodying Mark Wahlberg and stuff. Like Andy Samberg was doing that impression.
Say hi to your mom for me.
I remember seeing The Village in the theater, and like we were excited. It was opening night, and it was in this big like historic theater where we are. Where they have the mighty Wurlitzer. This guy that comes out and plays the big pipe organ. So it's like a deal to go to this theater. And when the credits went down at the end, the guy in the front row center was like, "Well, that sucked." He was
Now
so
see,
mad.
I love that one. I love The Village. But that was one of his first like really polarizing ones. I feel like.
Yeah, that was the first
Yeah.
time where people are
Yeah,
like,
I think it's the ups and downs of him.
yeah.
The Outwaters in theaters this week or Screambox late February. Better than Skinamarink for Schnarz's sake. Did not spell your name right. Missed an A.
I mean, all right, like
What
if
is-
that's the bar,
What is the Outwaters?
I don't know. I was pulling it up right now. It says fantasy mystery on Google. I don't know. We'll have to do a little research here. An excursion into the Mojave Desert turns creepy when a group of campers starts to experience unexplained sounds, vibrations, and unnatural animal behavior.
I do like creepy excursions. What is your best and worst Shyamalan twist? I want to say my favorite is The Village. Although Sixth Sense is, I mean, it's easy to forget that one because it's so old, but that movie
Yeah.
blew people away when it came out.
It's got to be. Sixth Sense is definitely the best. Worst, like I said, we've covered. There's a lot of worse. I don't know. Like we haven't touched on it, but The Visit. So Eric, I was
Visit
looking.
is so good.
You got the order slightly off. He did Avatar, then he did the After Earth or whatever the hell that was called. But they did, and then it was like 2 or 3 years, and then he comes back with The Visit. The Visit was great, and the twist was really good.
Yeah, it really was. Apparently, too, I was reading that he has self-financed. He's been self-financing these movies, which is super interesting.
I mean,
Or like he's raising the money himself.
but he has a deal with Universal. I'm fairly sure because the last like 4 or 5 movies have come from Universal. I don't know.
Maybe it's a distribution
It's
deal.
well, look. The other thing, he like set up a studio in suburban Philadelphia. Like he's very like loyal and dedicated, and like I think he generates a lot of jobs and like economic sort of impact there. And so he's a good dude. Like I got no qualms with how he handles his business. And to your point, it allows him the flexibility to do whatever he wants creatively. So, as you were mentioning earlier.
All right. A couple more questions. The better Knock movie, this one or Knock Knock?
Probably Knock Knock.
I do like that movie.
That was what's his name? God damn it.
I wish you could see my face too when I retroactively found out.
John Wick.
Then when I retroactively found out that Anna de Armas was in that movie, I was like, "Oh my lord!"
Oh, is she one of the girls?
Yeah, yeah.
That tracks. Okay. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I never saw this.
Oh gosh, pretty wild.
Matilda, you are in for a treat.
So Knock Knock is like Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves is like a married dude. His wife's out of town. He's like a rich architect. And Anna de Armas and this other actress who at the time was Eli Roth's wife, I forget her name, show up at the door in the rain, and they're like, can we come in and like call a cab? And they basically like seduce him. There's like an extended, very nude lovemaking scene that just like all over this house, like they seduce him, and he resists for a while, and he just can't resist. So then they all fall asleep, and when they wake up, they like flip 180 and are insane and won't leave the house and are threatening, basically trying to extort him. Like, we're going to tell your wife if you don't do what, blah, blah. I don't remember exactly what their aim is, but it's pretty wild. It's hit or miss, but it's a pretty wild experience.
I remember it probably more fondly than I even enjoyed it at the time, but it's Keanu. I mean,
especially I think in his renaissance, it's an interesting one. Is M. Night the most polarizing director working? If not, who is?
Come on, there's not even like Rob Zombie.
I said Rob Zombie. Yeah.
There's definitely others.
I've said this before, but I think this movie is a good example that M. Night does better with other people's material.
Yeah. And that's always
he is credited on the screenplay here. But
I mean, that's always what we've said about Rob Zombie too. He just has never refuses to do
that.
Yeah,
exactly. I think he's a great director. It's just he needs to lay off the writing a little bit or needs some assistance.
Rank
Eric,
these
previous to 2022. I would have said Ty West in the horror world. I feel like there was.
I mean, Ty West is another one that has had his kind of down swings, but he's really proven himself, I think.
Well, certainly now. I just feel like I don't even know that. Like, I wouldn't have classified him as having down, or I wouldn't have categorized them as downswings. I just think he like made movies he wanted to make and other people didn't like.
I think in particular, like House of the Devil, and also definitely The Innkeepers are like pretty polarizing movies.
Yeah, totally. That was my point.
Eli Roth, I think at times is up there.
Oh boy!
I think most people are just down on Eli Roth these days, but yeah, I see that. In honor of Valentine's Day, what is the best romance in a horror film? Jamie Lee Curtis and the old cop in the hospital bed in Halloween Kills. I'm just kidding.
Stop. I'm gonna pull out my geek card and say, just watch Hammer's Vampire Lovers.
I really liked. What was that zombie movie with Rob Corddry? Oh, what the fuck! It's like it's very like tween.
Warm
romancy.
Bodies? Are you?
Yes, yeah. There's
Okay.
There's some good romantical stuff in that movie.
I was gonna say Let the Right One In.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's pretty good.
It's like preteen romance. So,
I would say.
Yeah, there's romance. It's not great, but it's romance.
Last question.
There's a great, very sweet movie called Extraordinary.
Oh, we watched Extraordinary.
Like British.
Yeah.
That's adorable. Yeah. Like that's a lovely little romantic.
That is a good one.
Mm-hmm. What's that about again?
That's with what's not Will Arnett. What's his name?
Will Forte.
Will Forte.
He went to my high school. Will Forte. Yeah.
Yeah. And he plays like he's like a magician.
It's an Australian.
He was a failed musician that was like like Pink Floyd type of weird, extravagant type of rock.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Last question. How long would it have taken you to decide to self-sacrifice to stop the apocalypse? It took them a bit. Smiley face. I would not have. I would have let the world end, probably.
Well, I think at the time they made the decision was like the appropriate time.
But
like,
here's
you
how
sort
they
of have to let it get.
No,
to
but
them.
here's how they hedge it too, though, which is that it's not just that the world ends. You don't get to die when the world ends. You get to Twilight Zone style walk the earth alone for the rest of eternity, and they almost kind of make it sound like you're stuck in purgatory and can't just like kill yourself, sort of. But like they almost have to bake that in, I feel like, because otherwise I think it's a pretty clear answer, John. Like if you're just gonna go down with everybody, like fuck it, let's do this. I don't have a retirement, so I don't need to be here.
So
yeah, it's tempered by how much I love watching disasters in real time. Like as somebody who grew up in an earthquake place, you like drive to the earthquake epicenter and see where all the trees.
I mean, again, it's what makes it
like you want to see it.
It's what makes that finale of Melancholia like so stunning when the like you just watch the earth disintegrate, basically.
Yep.
That's
it. Like it's why I went to see San Andreas in the theater, even though it's not a good movie. Like it's not good, but I wanted to see my hometown.
We found Matilda's thing. I like it. Matilda, where can people find you?
They can find me and my co-hosts, who you've seen here, Rachel and Ariel, over at ZG Podcasts on all of the social medias. And right now we're doing it's Black History Month, so we're doing every weekday we're doing different Black creators in horror.
Nice.
So people should come check that out.
That's where they can find you when not under an electric blanket. Although sometimes also at the same time.
I was going to say, maybe still
I can
under
multitask. I can be under an electric blanket.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. I have, actually, the day you hear this, John, you'll know this because you follow me on Spotify. But I will have a new single out the day this show drops on Friday. So check me out. HY-FY. It's Hi-Fi on Spotify. Check me out, John. And give me a follow, please. I have a 5-track EP coming out at the end of the month as well.
Yay.
Casey, what about you?
I'm on Instagram, cinema.fromage. You can follow my art over there. There's going to be a sketchbook coming out soon.
Love it. All right. That's going to do it for Knock at the Cabin. Hope you guys enjoyed the show, and we'll be back next week.
See you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.